So this video is mostly for me, raw form, for my future self, watching maybe 5 years from now. But it'll also probably resonate with people who are overly self-conscious, especially in a negative way. And this is me. So here we go. Yesterday I was walking out, just taking a normal walk, and I was it was happening right after a coaching call with a very good friend, and things he said there and things we kind of put under the spotlight were very present. And so in that state I was observing myself even more. And so this is, for as long as I remember, this has been the case. But if I go all the way back to childhood, that wasn't the case. That showed up for me when I was maybe 14 and onwards, and now I'm almost 52, so it's been almost my entire life. But again, it wasn't the case when I was a child, so I was free from that back then. But my self-awareness and self-consciousness has developed so much that it's become a negative for me in a very big way. And what I wasn't realizing until recently is that my sense of self is built around this pretty much completely now. And what I mean by that is, going back to my walk yesterday, I was observing myself, I was meta observing myself, and I was observing the observer. And I was noticing how, as I walk, I constantly observe myself through the eyes of others, through the minds of others. And that's ironic because there is an observer that's reporting to me about what others think about me, and mostly how others perceive me. That's the thing, how others perceive me. And then I take these reports as if they're real, and I construct an image of my immediate reality based on how others perceive me. But the thing is that I construct all of it. I construct their perceptions, and then I take them at face value as if they're real, as if I can be in their own heads. And I can't. It's impossible, right? So I construct all of it. In other words, I judge myself as if others judge me. I project onto everybody and everything, and then I take that back, reflect it back to me, and I construct an image about my reality and mostly about myself. And I did a little bit of a research, and I'll talk about that here. But first, I want to talk about the negative effects of this, because I've been reflecting on that as well. One of them is this constant meta awareness. And by the way, there are two types. I did a bit of a research on that. Feinstein and Shiner and Buss from 1975 separate private self-consciousness, attention to your own inner states, feelings, and motives, from public self-consciousness, awareness of yourself as a social object, preoccupation with how you appear to others. And both of these, the private self-consciousness and the public self-consciousness, are very developed in me. But it seems to me, upon reflection, which ironically that's what I'm very good at, is that the public self-awareness is far more emphasized in me, to where it crowds out the private self-awareness. And so the negatives: number one, it costs tremendous energy to be constantly self-observing, and not in a healthy and spiritual way, because there could be the observer in a spiritual way where it's just witnessing everything in an effortless way, and eventually it ends dissolving the observing ego. But mine is the opposite. It's the the effortful, it's constant efforting, and it's dreadful, and it's based on threat response. In other words, my self-observation is the opposite of the spiritual self-observation, and being the witness, it's being the observer who's efforting all the time, and it's moving away from the truth, from spirituality. It costs tremendous energy. And I wasn't realizing that until recently, when I started reflecting on these things, that it's just, I've built my self-image around the image I attribute, not the image, but around the downloads of the opinions or the perceptions of others that I attribute to them, and then I take upon myself, and I build my self-image that way. So it's quite striking. So number one, it costs tremendous energy, and it's running pretty much all the time, at least in me. As I said, the next one, this is, I alluded to this, but it's threat driven, as if I'm not going to be okay, as if others perceive me in a negative way, that makes me not okay. So there is fear in that, and we know that fear is the opposite of the underlying truth of everything, which I believe is love based. In fact, probably that's the synonym for primary level consciousness is love. But I realize that I'm constantly in a low state of fear, which is anxiety, chronic anxiety, social anxiety, because I constantly observe myself, and it's become such a default state to me that upon reflection, it's how I am all the time, without even accessing the non-observer in the negative way anymore. And so now I'm beginning to take steps back around that. Another one, I pride myself, I used to, and that's changing. I pride myself in being authentic. And I've even talked about that in previous videos. And this is very raw. So it's not, as opposed to other videos where I had a plan around this. This is more of a no plan, just talking to my future self. But I realized that I cannot be further from the truth as far as my authenticity. Yes, if somebody asks me a question, I answer from the position of nothing to hide. I have nothing to hide. So I'm truthful in that, and I'm raw in my communications with others. But what I realized is where I'm not truthful is in my authenticity as far as what I present to people. It's always this curated version that's trying to be safe because of the perceived judgment of others and their perception of me, and how much I've built my self-image around that. And so what I thought was an authentic me out there in the world, it's not. It was me, and I say it was because I hope this is changing, and there is danger in that as well. So I hope it was me, because now I'm aware of that, and that's exactly the danger. So the danger is that I can turn this into another system and put another bottom to the bottom already, which is a new observer, a new watcher, so to speak. And in trying to alleviate the challenge, I actually potentiate it, because I go one meta level beyond that. And so that's the danger for me. So I don't know if you're watching, somebody's watching this video, if that's you as well, but that's me. So I did a bit of a research around this, and there are some things that resonate with me and some that don't, but I wanted to mention what resonated with me as far as what I think is happening, because it turns out there is quite a bit of literature in psychology. There's a lot of body of work there. So just reading here from the screen, The Observer Perspective, Clark and Wells from 1995, Cognitive Model of Social Anxiety. Relevant, isn't it? It says socially anxious people stop attending to the room and instead construct a detailed image of how they look from the outside, then respond to that image as if it were data. That's watching myself through their eyes loop is the most precise match to what you're describing, because I was describing what I was going through. But isn't it ironic? Detailed image of how they look from the outside, then respond to that image as if it were data. Wow. So yeah, that resonates a lot with me. And here is the other one. The Spotlight Effect. Gilovich, Medved, Savitsky from 2000. People systematically overestimate how much others notice and judge them. The internal observer is running on inflated numbers. Yeah, that's me. And the other one that resonated a lot, it's Cooley's Looking Glass Self. You build your self concept from imagined judgments of others. So yeah, when I read this, I almost fell off my couch here, because this really hit a center for me. I wasn't realizing how much I'm living from the self-image that I even thought was my authentic me, and how far from the truth. And I'm living from the constructed self, from the imagined perceptions of others. All right, so I don't know what the solutions are, and for me specifically, this is the trap, because I may start strategizing. That's my usual way of approaching challenges. I construct it into a problem that I then have to solve, and in trying to solve that problem, I go out and I build a whole elaborate system around it. But in building that system, I become the watcher of that system, and so I can make it worse. And so now the challenge for me personally is to be aware of it without being aware of it in a potentiated, emphasized way that becomes another rung on the ladder, deeper down, another bottom. So I looked up what could be ways for allaying this, for alleviating this, and what could be some psychological strategies. And again, some resonated, some not. There is the task concentration training. It's great at refocusing of attention outward onto the task and the environment. This doesn't resonate much with me, but I'm mentioning it in case you want to research it. That's Biogles and colleagues. But this is one. Dropping safety behaviors plus external focus, then video feedback. The experimental core of Clark and Wells CBT, cognitive therapy, for social anxiety. Self-monitoring is itself a safety behavior. So the move is to deliberately stop doing it in a real situation and put attention on the other person instead. The high leverage piece is the video feedback. Predict in specific detail how bad you look, then watch yourself as if you're watching a stranger. So this resonates a lot with me because something I've noticed is my self-image is far more negative than how I actually look. And it's describing basically what this model describes, or it's deriving from there. But I've noticed if I think of myself, the way I picture myself on the inside is much more anemic and negative than when I go in the bathroom and I look in the mirror and I see somebody else and I go, wow, I almost get surprised pretty much every time. It's like, you look much better than the image you hold about yourself in your own damn mind. It's striking. And you know what's even more striking is that I've gone through this probably hundreds of times already, but it's still the same. My self-perception when I'm out in the world is this much smaller self, much weaker, and that's how I think others perceive me. And here's the other negative thing that I didn't even mention in the beginning is we're hardwired to feel other people's energies. Most people are not conscious of that. In other words, they cannot consciously bring it up to awareness level and repeat it. But we all feel that something's wrong with somebody. Something is not right there. We cannot name it, but we feel it. And so I am certain that I'm projecting energy out there that others, without even knowing, is kind of, there is something here. I don't know exactly what. And you know what? There is the danger again. Just the awareness of this, I can take it in and go, see, now even not others know, and then attribute it to them again, then take that reflection and deepen the problem even more. So this is how my psyche works. I'm going a lot in detail here for my future self when he watches that video. If he remembers to watch it, I'll jot it down in this book here. If he reads the book back one day, maybe he'll come back and watch this video. But I'm also sharing it in case somebody else has that level of depth in their negative, ruminating self-judgment that's constructed on the perceived judgments and perceptions of others. Maybe it'll be helpful to you. So going down the list quickly. Spotlight effect behavioral experiments. Deliberately do something mildly conspicuous. Ask the obvious question, drop something, wear the noticeable thing, and then collect actual data on how much anyone noticed or cared. This is, the mechanism is recalibrating the inflated prior about being watched. And so this is this goes hand in hand with something that I've mentioned in a couple other videos, which is the predictive processing, how we construct our present moment from a predicted future, which seems to be the dominant cognitive model of how our minds work. And so this directly relates to that. Next, decentering and diffusion. This is MBCT and ACT's diffusion work. What do I say about that? This is exactly, so let me read a little bit. The target is changing your relationship to the evaluative thought and the importance you assign to that thought. It's not on adding a level of observation. So this goes back to the danger I talked about, because I can turn this into another watcher kind of thing. But I believe with some caution, for me and maybe for others, the centering and diffusion could be a real strategy. Next, absorption and flow. This is Csikszentmihalyi, the researcher, scientist who popularized the idea of flow. I don't know, 10 years ago maybe. The book is called Flow, I believe, same name. Loss of self-consciousness is a defining feature of flow, not a side effect. Challenge skill matched absorbing activity reliably crowds out the monitor because skilled motor attention and self-monitoring compete for the same resource. So yeah, this is very valid to be in flow, because everything else just falls out. And then the last one is the upstream lever: detach the verdict from your worth. Self-compassion and self-acceptance. These are self-explanatory. Yeah, there's a lot in here, and I'm not going to make this any longer than it should be, and I'm not tying it up with a bow tie here and giving the 1, 2, 3, because I don't know what the 1, 2, 3 solutions are. And for me personally, thinking about the immediate strategy around solution potentiates the challenge, the problem. And so I will sit with these things, and I'm not going to give this a beautiful YouTube wrap. It'll be just where I leave it. And so if this was any useful to you, great. If it wasn't, great. So that's it for this one. I'm signing off.